Let me tell you guys about BellyUpSports. BellyUpSports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. BellyUpSports is the premier, not your average website. Before we go into Ruben, obviously we heard all the rumors. I mean, before Tuchel took the English job, he was apparently the front runner, and which Ten Hag took to offense. Right, he took offense to the fact that there was even rumors of Tuchel taking the job, about which meant that he was going to get fired. So
Yeah.
he took offense to it. Clearly not that much offense because he still lost. But I mean, like, Xavi was mentioned also as well.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think Zinedine Zidane was brought up, but I'm sure someone mentioned that name at some point. I don't think that guy's getting a job anytime soon. But there were names speculated with Manchester United. Ruben was probably like maybe more recent was a name that was coming up. It wasn't a name that was brought up throughout the season for Manchester United. But
Yeah.
um, do you think, obviously Van Nistelrooy to me logically made more sense at this point in this scenario, but what is it about Ruben Amorim and what made him kind of push away from the other candidates that we were looking at from the rumors?
I think it's some of just his reputation coming into this, to be honest. Well, first and foremost, I think they've been lining up this Amorim deal for a while, right? Like, look how fast United was able to move into these conversations with him. There had to have been someone in constant communication with him, keeping him updated on how conversations were going, especially as the Ten Hag managerial seat got hotter week over week. So with how quickly they moved, he had to have already been the front runner and already someone they were talking to. But remember, I think in the summer he was rumored to go to West Ham. I think before they hired Lopetegui, he was kind of the manager that they were talking to, they were interviewing. And this is why, to me, man, I don't know, Amorim, he kind of got some snaky vibes about him a little bit, at least in terms of like how he's kind of just always looking out for himself. But he was supposed to go to West Ham. He went back. I think, some of the players who were at Sporting who were there, guys like Gyökeres, and a few other guys in the team who were really there for him, to play for him. After that whole West Ham conversation came to light publicly, I think there were rumors he went back and kind of apologized, asked the team to rally around him. This probably wouldn't happen again. And then a few months later, he's announced as Manchester United manager. And I think, this even happened back in the day when he was at Braga. Very similar scenario with how he's kind of like moved on within the Portuguese league. So I think, look, he's looking out for him in his career. I thought he was always going to end up in the Premier League at some point. We almost saw it with West Ham, and now we get to see it with United. I think my question is with him is like, what I'm trying to figure out and assess is, how is this not a Ten Hag type of signing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it feels like a hipster manager signing. There were some pretty big proven managers available, Tuchel being the most obvious one. They had the conversations with him in the summer. Things didn't go well. I don't think he would take it again, even before the England job. But it just, I don't know, man. There to me, there were a little more names that might just been a little more established. But you find another manager who's arguably outside the top five in Europe, who's seeing his own success in his respective league, and that's great. But it's just it's a different league entirely in the Prem. The badge of Manchester United weighs very heavily. I'd fail to kind of see, outside of age, what really, really separates Amorim from Ten Hag. I thought they would have gone with like a different profile, but maybe Ineos see something in him that I don't.
I think is Ineos just like, is that it's an English group, right? Or is it a Portuguese
Yeah,
group?
I believe it's probably. Well, I know Sir Ratcliffe. I don't know if Ineos as far as all the major stakeholders are all English, but I would assume they are.
Okay, I know that Porto is like sponsored by them, as far as like
Oh,
as a
it could be. It could be.
yeah. But it is interesting because I think you have a point about like the similarities to Ten Hag, which is obviously he's an exciting young manager who's doing fairly well with Sporting, which Sporting right now is in first place in the Portuguese league, by the way, and 6 points away from Porto. So take that with a grain of salt. And obviously he's the guy that got Sporting back into the championship back in 2021 where they finally won their first championship in years. Uh,
Yeah.
and since then, he's had a lot of positive results over at Sporting. Now the thing that's kind of once again he's very young, 39 years old, very young for a manager, which scares me because I'm creeping close to that age. Not that close, but I am in my 30s, and that's kind of scares me now. But I do think that there's some things that he's gonna have to adjust. I don't think the 3-4-3 is gonna work in the Premier League. That's just my opinion. I don't know if he has the personnel for a 3-4-3 as well. At least for Manchester United, I think that's maybe his preferred formation, but in the Premier League, obviously, it's a different type of beast, and you may not be able to do those things. Um, but yeah, you had experienced managers. I think what Southgate was also rumored for the Manchester United job, or at least that's what everyone thought. Like, you don't quit England unless you think you have this kind of job, kind of opportunity that was mentioned before, which Southgate is available. But I think I think the fact that he is young, which I mean that's kind of been the whole thing now. It's all about getting these in every sport actually. It's about getting these younger coaches that played at one point and a lot more recently than the other managers. Thinking there's some sort of relatability. I mean, it worked for Real Madrid with Zinedine Zidane. It worked kind of with Xavi in Qatar. It's even worked in American sports. We have
Yep.
not young, but younger coaches who are more relatable to the athletes. I just don't know if the thing is with me is I don't know what Amorim's like Premier League experience is because I know he did play for Benfica when he was a player. But as far as anything else, I don't know if he's ever even, besides watching it on TV, has ever like saw what the Premier League is like. It's the big leagues, right? It's the show.
Yeah.
Um, so what goes in for that for Ruben Amorim?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, I think you and I are kind of the same boat in terms of not knowing what to expect. The good news is like it feels like no matter what, a change has to happen. I would like to think the players are going to expect at a minimum, some brand of football on the pitch from Amorim, a style that he wants to play, a brand that he wants to firmly imprint on the squad. So at least there's that, right? They're gonna get maybe some clear direction on what to do, when to do it, who the actual go-to playmakers are going to be. Maybe even maybe look. I know Bruno's former sport thing, so like maybe the captaincy doesn't change. But in my opinion, that's another leadership position that should be up for grabs with a new manager coming into town. I think it's just how, in my opinion, sports should work. Like, managers, teams should always pick the captain, but sometimes it ends up being the manager. And if that ends up being the case, when a manager moves on, the new one should maybe have a say in how that process works. And that might mean Bruno's not it. But I don't know, man. And also to me, Bruno, I could be being harsh here, but I don't think he's the best captain anyway. Like
Oh, I agree.
if I'm
I
being
know.
serious, like yeah, I don't like the
But
guy as
who
a
should be the
player, but
captain though? I mean, that's
yeah.
it's not necessarily there's not like a guy that sticks out to you. Harry Maguire would be hilarious. But I mean, like,
I don't know, bro. Usually like the most. I mean, if Luke Shaw wasn't so damn injury prone,
oh
you
man, you're right. I would love to. Luke Shaw is so underrated, man. I love that guy.
yeah.
He's a dog.
But
But
he's just been there forever. He's English, so it's like on brand with who Manchester United, typically are. And that's not a factor for captain, but it's just like he's like on brand for the club. If he played consistently, he's been there so long that you would expect him to be the captain. He just knows what it means to be at Manchester United. But again, those are just little details that Amorim will have to figure out. And what sucks is he's going to come in at a tumultuous time. He might get bailed out a little bit with being able to do something in the transfer window if they can swing it, Ineos. But and I'm sure they've talked about that already. They had to have talked about that. So yeah, man, I don't know, but it's look, he's gonna be under pressure from day one. Keep in mind, guys, they're paying, I think it's 18 million, 20 million to release Ten Hag from his contract and acquiring Amorim for 10 million, right? So you're spending 30 million to bring in this manager on top of all the money you gave the last manager. So things have to work. This is a big, big bet Manchester United are making.